You're scrolling through your phone, waiting for a reply that never comes. Days turn into weeks, and the silence feels louder than any words could. Ghosting. It's one of those modern-day experiences that can leave you questioning your worth, your choices, even your sanity. But what if I told you there's a way to navigate this emotional minefield without giving away your power? Enter Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that teaches us how to stay grounded even when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoics, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Today, we'll explore how Stoic principles like detachment, resilience, and self-mastery can help you handle ghosting with grace, reclaim your inner strength, and emerge even stronger. This isn't just about moving on, it's about growing through the experience. So, let's dive in and discover how to turn silence into strength. Ghosting, at its core, is an act of silence, someone suddenly withdrawing communication, leaving you without explanation or closure. But here's the thing, ghosting is entirely outside of your control. It's a decision made by another person, and no matter how much you might wish to change it, you can't. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful perspective. The ancient Stoics taught us to focus on the dichotomy of control, the idea that some things are within our power while others simply aren't. Your reactions, your thoughts, your emotions, these are yours to command. But the actions of others, those belong to the realm of the uncontrollable. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it this way: some things are in our control and others are not. If you have control, take charge. If you don't, let it be. This simple yet profound idea shifts the focus from what's happening to you to how you choose to respond. When someone ghosts you, it's natural to feel hurt, confused, or even angry. But those emotions don't have to define you. Instead, you can choose to see the situation for what it is, an external event that doesn't have to dictate your internal state. Think about this for a moment. How often do you let someone else's actions determine your emotional well-being? It's a question worth reflecting on because, in truth, your power lies not in controlling others but in mastering your own mind. The next time you're faced with ghosting or any form of rejection, ask yourself, what part of this is truly within my control? The answer might just free you from the weight of someone else's choices and remind you where your real strength lies. When someone suddenly stops responding to your messages or disappears without explanation, it's easy to feel rejected, hurt, or even question your own worth. But Stoicism offers a powerful alternative to this emotional turmoil: the practice of detachment. At its core, detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about freeing yourself from the control that external events and other people's actions have over your inner peace. Take Seneca's wisdom to heart: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. What he's pointing to is the way we amplify our pain by attaching meaning to things outside our control. When someone ghosts you, it's not the act itself that hurts, it's the story you tell yourself about it. Maybe you start thinking, they don't value me, or I must have done something wrong. But here's the truth: their silence says far more about them than it does about you. Detachment allows you to step back and see the situation for what it really is: a choice someone else has made, independent of your worth. It's not about denying your feelings, it's about refusing to let those feelings define you. Imagine this: you send a message and it goes unanswered. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you remind yourself, this is their choice, not my problem. You don't need their response to validate your value. Your worth isn't tied to their approval or attention. This is where Stoicism shines. It teaches us to focus on what's within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and how we choose to respond. External validation, whether it's a text back, a compliment, or someone's opinion, is fleeting and unreliable. But your inner stability, that's something no one can take away. So here's a question to reflect on. How much of your happiness is tied to what others think or do? Are you giving away your power by waiting for their approval or acknowledgement? Detachment isn't about shutting people out, it's about reclaiming your peace and recognizing that your value doesn't depend on anyone else's actions. That's the power of Stoicism. It teaches you to stand firm even when the world feels uncertain. One of the most profound lessons Stoicism teaches us is the ability to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. When it comes to ghosting, this principle becomes incredibly relevant. Ghosting is, at its core, a reflection of someone else's choices, their actions, their decisions, none of which are within your control. And here's the key: their choice to ghost says far more about them than it does about you. It's not a measure of your worth, your value, or your ability to connect with others. It's simply their reality, their way of handling things, whether out of fear, indifference, or something else entirely. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is such a powerful reminder. You can't control whether someone chooses to disappear or stop responding. What you can control is how you respond to it, how you frame it in your mind, and how you choose to move forward. Think of ghosting like a storm. You can't stop the rain or the wind, but you can choose to put on a coat, grab an umbrella, or find shelter. You can prepare yourself emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually to weather it without letting it sweep you away. This doesn't mean it won't hurt. It doesn't mean you have to pretend it doesn't sting. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about acknowledging them, understanding them, and then deciding how you'll act in spite of them. When you accept that ghosting is outside your control, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of overthinking, self-doubt, and blame. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" Or, "Why wasn't I enough?" Instead, you focus on what you can do, take care of yourself, reflect on the experience, and grow from it. So, the next time someone ghosts you, try this. Instead of internalizing their silence as a judgment on your value, see it as a moment to practice acceptance. Remind yourself that their actions are their own, and your power lies in how you respond. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you stand in it. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply let the storm pass while holding onto the knowledge that you're still standing, still whole, and still in control of your own path. Here's the next part of the script, crafted to align with your guidelines and maintain the flow of the video. When facing the sting of ghosting, it's easy to feel like your emotions are being tossed around by forces outside your control. But Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this chaos, the idea of the inner citadel. Think of it as your mental fortress, an unshakable core within you that remains steady, no matter what storms rage outside. This concept isn't about building walls to shut others out. It's about creating a space inside yourself where you can retreat, reflect, and regain your balance. It's the part of you that no one can take away, no matter how they behave. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "Guard your mind more than any treasure, for it is the only place where true security lies." This isn't just poetic advice, it's a practical reminder. When someone ghosts you, their silence doesn't have to dominate your thoughts or dictate your peace. By focusing on your inner citadel, you take back control. You remind yourself that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions or attention. Instead, it's rooted in how you choose to respond. So how do you start strengthening this inner resilience? It begins with small, intentional practices. Maybe it's journaling to untangle your thoughts, meditating to quiet the noise, or simply taking a moment each day to remind yourself of your values and strengths. These habits don't just help you cope with ghosting, they build a foundation of self-trust that can carry you through any challenge. Ask yourself this: what practices can you adopt to strengthen your inner resilience? The answer might be different for everyone, but the goal is the same: to create a space where you feel grounded no matter what happens around you. This passage introduces the concept of the inner citadel with clarity, connects it to the experience of ghosting, and offers actionable steps for viewers to reflect on. It maintains a warm yet authoritative tone, ensuring it resonates with both Stoic enthusiasts and general audiences. One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers is the ability to reframe challenges, not as setbacks but as opportunities for growth. When you're ghosted, it's easy to feel powerless or rejected, but what if you could see this moment as a test of your emotional resilience? Stoicism teaches us that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Ghosting, as painful as it may feel, becomes a chance to practice self-discipline and emotional control. It's an invitation to strengthen your inner fortitude, to rise above the situation rather than be consumed by it. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, the hardships we face, like being ghosted, are not punishments but opportunities to grow stronger. When someone disappears without explanation, it's natural to feel hurt or confused, but Stoicism reminds us that these emotions are temporary. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, and your perspective, you reclaim your power. You're no longer at the mercy of someone else's behavior. Instead, you're actively shaping how you move forward. So, how can you put this into practice? One effective way is through journaling. Writing about your experience allows you to process your emotions constructively. Instead of letting frustration or sadness fester, you can explore those feelings on paper, gaining clarity and perspective. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from it? By reflecting on the experience, you're not just venting, you're turning it into a stepping stone for personal development. This simple act of journaling becomes a form of emotional self-care, helping you build resilience and move forward with intention. Remember, ghosting doesn't define your worth. It's merely a moment in time, and how you respond to it is what truly matters. By embracing Stoic principles, you can transform what feels like a loss into a powerful lesson in self-mastery. One of the most profound lessons Stoicism offers is the power of letting go, especially when it comes to expectations. Think about it. How often do we set ourselves up for frustration by assuming others will act in a way that aligns with our hopes? The truth is, expecting people to behave a certain way is like trying to control the weather. It's simply not within your power, and when those expectations aren't met, it's not the situation that hurts us, but our own attachment to how we thought things should go. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, put it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is a reminder that our peace of mind doesn't come from others meeting our expectations, but from how we choose to respond when they don't. If someone ghosts you, for example, it's easy to spiral into thoughts about what you could have done differently or how they should have handled the situation. But the Stoic approach asks, why give so much weight to something you can't control? Here's a practical way to apply this idea. Imagine you've been ghosted, and you've already spent hours crafting the perfect response in your head. You've rehearsed what you'll say, how you'll say it, and even how they'll react, but then you pause. You realize that none of this is necessary. You don't need to react at all. Their silence isn't about you, it's about them. By releasing the expectation of a response, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of waiting, wondering, and worrying. This doesn't mean you're indifferent or don't care. It simply means you're choosing to focus on what's within your control, your own thoughts, actions, and reactions. When you stop expecting others to meet your standards, you take back your power. And that's where true freedom lies, not in controlling the world around you, but in mastering how you engage with it. When we talk about ghosting, it's easy to get caught up in the sting of rejection, to feel like the silence from the other person is a permanent mark on your worth or your future. But what if I told you that the Stoics had a powerful tool for navigating this kind of emotional turbulence? It's the concept of impermanence, the idea that everything in life, including relationships, is temporary. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: nothing lasts forever, not even our troubles. Think about that for a moment. The people who come into our lives, the connections we form, even the pain we feel, it's all part of a constantly shifting landscape. When you truly internalize this idea, ghosting starts to lose its power over you. It's no longer a personal attack or a reflection of your value. It's simply a reminder that life is always in flux. So, how does this mindset help you move on without resentment? It shifts your focus from what's been lost to what's still within your control. Instead of clinging to the idea that a relationship should have lasted forever, you can accept that its ending was simply part of the natural order of things. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings or pretend the hurt doesn't exist. It means you acknowledge the pain, but you don't let it define you. Here's a question to reflect on: how can accepting impermanence free you from emotional pain? When you stop resisting the idea that things change, you stop fighting against reality. You stop wasting energy on what you can't control and start focusing on what you can: your own thoughts, your own actions, your own growth. And that's where true power lies. Stoicism teaches us that pain, though uncomfortable, is one of life's most profound teachers. When we experience something as jarring as being ghosted, it can feel like a rejection of our worth or a blow to our self-esteem. But here's the thing: Stoics like Seneca remind us that adversity is not something to avoid, it's something to learn from. In one of his letters, Seneca writes, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Think about that for a moment. Just as physical exercise builds muscle, emotional challenges build resilience and wisdom. Being ghosted, as painful as it is, offers a unique opportunity to practice this principle. It forces us to confront our own emotional dependencies and question where we're placing our sense of self-worth. Are we relying too much on external validation? Are we allowing someone else's silence to define our value? These are the kinds of questions that ghosting brings to the surface, and they're exactly the kind of questions Stoicism encourages us to explore. The act of being ignored or dismissed by someone can become a mirror, reflecting back to us areas where we might need to cultivate greater emotional independence. So, how do we turn this pain into wisdom? Start by asking yourself, what has being ghosted taught me about myself? Maybe it's shown you how much you've been seeking approval from others, or perhaps it's revealed a fear of abandonment that's been lingering beneath the surface. Whatever the lesson, identify it clearly. Then, take it a step further. How has this experience made you stronger? Maybe you've learned to set healthier boundaries, or maybe you've discovered a newfound ability to validate yourself without needing someone else's input. This is the Stoic way: to see every challenge, even something as personal as ghosting, as an opportunity for growth. It's not about dismissing the hurt or pretending it doesn't matter. It's about using that hurt as fuel to become more self-aware, more resilient, and ultimately, more in control of your own emotional well-being. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to spiral into self-doubt or harsh self-criticism. But here's where Stoicism offers a profound yet often overlooked perspective: the balance between self-discipline and self-compassion. Yes, Stoics are known for their emphasis on resilience and emotional control, but they also understood the importance of treating yourself with kindness, especially in moments of pain. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, once wrote, Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself, but let's not misinterpret that. Being strict with yourself doesn't mean beating yourself up when things go wrong. It means holding yourself accountable while also extending the same compassion you'd offer a friend. Think about it. If someone you cared about was ghosted, would you tell them they deserved it? Would you pile on more blame or shame? Probably not. You'd likely offer them comfort, remind them of their worth, and encourage them to move forward with grace. So why not do the same for yourself? Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook or avoiding responsibility. It's about acknowledging your pain without letting it define you. It's about recognizing that you're human and humans stumble, hurt, and heal. This is where the Stoic practice of self-acceptance comes into play. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. When you're ghosted, it's not a reflection of your value. It's an event outside your control. What you can control is how you respond to it. And part of that response should include treating yourself with the same care and understanding you'd show someone else. So here's a question to reflect on. How can you show yourself the same kindness you'd offer a friend in this situation? Maybe it's giving yourself permission to feel hurt without judgment. Maybe it's reminding yourself of your strengths and the qualities that make you worthy of respect and connection. Or maybe it's simply taking a step back and saying, "This hurts, but I'll get through it." Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's a quiet strength. It's the ability to hold space for your pain while still moving forward, grounded in the understanding that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions. By practicing this balance, self-discipline to stay grounded and self-compassion to heal, you reclaim your power. You stop letting the ghosting define you and start defining yourself on your own terms. And that, in itself, is a deeply Stoic act. Now, let's talk about reclaiming your narrative. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to feel like a victim, as though your story is being written for you by someone else's silence. But Stoicism gives you the tools to take back control. Instead of letting their absence define you, you can rewrite your story on your own terms. This isn't about denying how much it hurts, it's about choosing where you place your focus. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the essence of this shift self-mastery. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions or inactions. Here's a practical way to start. Write a letter to yourself, not the kind you'll send, but one you'll keep. In it, affirm your strength, your resilience, and the person you're becoming. Acknowledge the pain, but also celebrate the growth it's pushing you toward. This isn't just an exercise in self-compassion, it's a declaration of independence. By putting these thoughts on paper, you're actively shifting the narrative. You're no longer the person left waiting, you're the person moving forward. And that's where your power lies. This approach isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about reframing your experience so that you're the hero of your own story, not the casualty of someone else's choices. When you focus on your own growth, you take the pen out of their hands and start writing your own future. When someone suddenly disappears from your life without explanation, it can feel like a violation, a breach of trust that leaves you questioning your worth. But here's the thing, ghosting doesn't just reveal the other person's shortcomings, it also shines a light on where your boundaries might need strengthening. This is where Stoicism offers profound guidance. The Stoics believed in protecting your inner peace above all else, and that starts with setting clear, unshakable boundaries. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." What does this mean in the context of ghosting? It's a reminder that much of the pain we feel comes from our own expectations and attachments, not necessarily from the act of being ghosted itself. If we don't have boundaries in place to safeguard our emotional well-being, we leave ourselves vulnerable to unnecessary suffering. So how do you build these boundaries? Start by recognizing what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. If someone consistently disrespects your time, energy, or emotions, it's up to you to decide when enough is enough. Boundaries aren't about controlling others, they're about taking control of your own life. They're a way of saying, this is where I draw the line and I won't allow anyone to cross it. Think about it, when you're ghosted, it's often a sign that the other person didn't value your connection enough to communicate openly. That's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their inability to meet your standards. By setting boundaries, you're not only protecting yourself from future harm, but also setting a standard for how you expect to be treated. Here's a question to reflect on. What boundaries can you set to prevent future emotional harm? Maybe it's being clear about your expectations in relationships, or perhaps it's learning to walk away when someone shows you they're not capable of meeting them. The key is to act with intention, not out of fear or desperation. When you establish these limits, you reclaim your power and create a space where only those who truly respect you can enter. Remember, boundaries aren't walls meant to shut people out. They're gates that allow the right people in. And as the Stoics teach us, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential. By setting healthy boundaries, you're not just responding to ghosting, you're preventing it from having the power to disrupt your life in the first place. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to feel tied down by resentment, replaying the unanswered messages or the sudden silence in your mind. But here's the Stoic truth. Forgiveness isn't about letting the other person off the hook, it's about freeing yourself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, holding onto anger doesn't punish the person who hurt you, it only keeps you trapped in their shadow. Forgiveness, then, becomes a powerful act of reclaiming your peace. Think about it this way: when you forgive, you're not saying what happened was okay. You're simply choosing to stop carrying the weight of it. It's like setting down a heavy bag you've been lugging around for miles. The other person might not even know you've forgiven them, and that's the point. This isn't for them, it's for you. Here's a practical step to make this idea tangible. Take a moment to write down what you're ready to release. It could be the confusion, the frustration, or even the lingering hope that they'll come back. Then burn it, not as a dramatic act of destruction, but as a symbolic gesture. Watching those words turn to ash can be a powerful reminder that you're choosing to let go, to reclaim your energy and focus for what truly matters. This isn't about forgetting or excusing what happened. It's about understanding that your peace is too valuable to be held hostage by someone else's actions. By forgiving, you're not condoning their behavior, you're simply refusing to let it define your inner world. And in that refusal, you find a profound kind of freedom. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers for handling ghosting: staying present in the moment. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of questions and emotions when someone suddenly disappears from your life. Why did they leave? Was it something I did? Will they ever come back? But here's the thing. Those questions pull you out of the present and into a spiral of overthinking, which only drains your energy and distracts you from what truly matters, the here and now. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it simply: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about that for a second. How much of your pain about ghosting comes from the stories you're telling yourself in your head, rather than the actual situation? The Stoics believed that the present moment is the only thing we truly control, and by anchoring ourselves in it, we can avoid the mental traps of regret about the past or anxiety about the future. So, how do you stay present? Start by focusing on what's directly in front of you. Maybe it's the warmth of sunlight streaming through your window, the sound of birds chirping outside, or even the simple act of taking a deep breath. These small, tangible moments ground you in reality, reminding you that life is still happening all around you, even if someone chose to step out of it. Here's a reflective prompt to help you practice this. What can you focus on today that brings you joy and peace? It doesn't have to be grand or life-changing. It could be as simple as savoring your morning coffee, taking a walk in nature, or losing yourself in a good book. When you shift your attention to these moments, you reclaim your power, not by chasing answers you may never get, but by appreciating the life you're living right now. This isn't about ignoring your feelings or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's about choosing where to direct your energy. By staying present, you're not giving ghosting the power to define your days. Instead, you're choosing to focus on what's real, what's meaningful, and what's within your control. And that, my friend, is where true strength lies. Ghosting can feel like a harsh rejection, but what if it's not the end of the story? What if it's actually a redirection? Stoicism offers a powerful perspective here. Instead of seeing rejection as a personal failure, the Stoics teach us to view it as an opportunity, a chance to grow, to reflect, and to align ourselves with what truly matters. As Seneca once wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, challenges, even painful ones like ghosting, can be the very thing that shapes us into stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. So, how do we reframe ghosting as redirection? Start by asking yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Maybe it's a sign that this relationship wasn't aligned with your values or goals. Perhaps it's an invitation to focus more on self-discovery and personal growth. Let's break this down with 3 potential positive outcomes that could come from being ghosted. First, it gives you clarity. When someone disappears, it's a clear signal that they weren't fully invested. That clarity, while painful, can save you from investing more time and energy into something that wasn't meant to be. Second, it strengthens your resilience. Navigating the emotional aftermath of ghosting can help you build emotional fortitude, which is invaluable in all areas of life. And third, it opens the door to better connections. By letting go of what wasn't meant for you, you create space for relationships that are more aligned, genuine, and fulfilling. Think of it this way: ghosting isn't just an ending, it's a pivot point. It's a chance to reassess your priorities, to focus on your own growth, and to move toward relationships that truly honor who you are. Seneca reminds us that challenges aren't obstacles, they're opportunities. So when life or someone ghosts you, take it as a signpost pointing you toward something better. The question isn't, why did this happen to me, but rather, what can I make of this? And that shift in perspective is where your power lies. When someone you care about suddenly disappears from your life, it's natural to feel hurt, confused, or even betrayed. But Stoicism offers a powerful tool to help you navigate this pain: gratitude. Yes, even in the midst of being ghosted, gratitude can become your anchor. It's not about pretending the pain doesn't exist, it's about shifting your focus to what you still have rather than what you've lost. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This isn't just a nice sentiment, it's a reminder that life is filled with gifts even when it feels like something or someone has been taken away. Gratitude doesn't erase the hurt, but it puts it into perspective. It helps you see that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions or inactions. So let's pause for a moment. Think about the things you're grateful for right now. Maybe it's your health, your friendships, your ability to learn and grow. Maybe it's the simple joy of a quiet morning or the support of someone who's always been there for you. When you focus on these things, the sting of being ghosted begins to soften. you realize that your life is still full of value, even if one person chose to walk away. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the pain while also recognizing the abundance that remains. This Stoic practice helps you reclaim your power, reminding you that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else's choices. When someone ghosts you, it's natural to feel rejected or question your worth. But here's the thing: Stoicism teaches us that our value doesn't come from how others treat us. It comes from within. This is where the idea of self-reliance shines. Instead of seeking validation from others, Stoicism invites us to look inward, to reconnect with what truly matters to us. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In other words, true freedom comes from relying on your own judgment, your own values, and your own sense of purpose. Ghosting, as painful as it might feel in the moment, can actually be an opportunity. It's a chance to step back and ask yourself, what do I really care about? What are the principles that guide my life? These questions aren't just philosophical, they're practical. When you're grounded in your own values, the opinions and actions of others lose their power to define you. You start to see ghosting not as a reflection of your worth, but as a reflection of someone else's choices. So how do you strengthen this sense of self? Start by creating a list of your core values. What do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of how others treat you? Maybe it's integrity, kindness, or resilience. Write these down and then think about how they guide your actions. For example, if one of your values is honesty, how does that show up in your daily life? Are you honest with yourself about what you need and deserve in relationships? This exercise isn't just about introspection, it's about empowerment. When you're clear on your values, you're less likely to be swayed by external events like being ghosted. You'll start to see these moments as opportunities to reaffirm who you are and what you stand for. And that's where your real power lies, not in controlling how others act, but in staying true to yourself no matter what happens. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to feel like you've lost control, like your emotions are at the mercy of someone else's actions. But Stoicism teaches us that this isn't the case. The truth is, while you can't control what others do, you always have control over how you respond. This isn't just about staying calm, it's about preserving your power in a situation where it might feel like it's slipping away. Think about it: when someone disappears without explanation, they've made a choice, but your choice, how you react, is still yours, and that's where your strength lies. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he meant is that our minds tend to amplify the pain, creating stories and scenarios that make the situation feel worse than it actually is. But here's the thing: you don't have to let those stories define your response. Instead of spiraling into anger, confusion, or self-doubt, you can choose to respond with dignity. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about acknowledging them, understanding them, and then deciding how you want to move forward. So, how can you respond to ghosting in a way that aligns with your values? Start by asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Do you want to chase after someone who's clearly chosen to walk away? Or do you want to honor your self-respect and focus on what you can control, your own actions and mindset? By choosing not to retaliate or dwell on the silence, you're not giving up your power, you're reclaiming it. You're showing yourself and the world that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to communicate. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to practice virtue. Ghosting is no different. It's a chance to demonstrate patience, resilience, and self-respect. When you respond with dignity, you're not just handling the situation, you're building the kind of inner strength that no one can take away from you. silence isn't just the absence of words, it's a deliberate choice, a space where strength and self-respect can grow. In Stoicism, silence is revered as a form of power, a way to rise above the chaos of emotions and external events. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. When someone ghosts you, the instinct might be to react, to demand answers, or to lash out. But Stoicism teaches us that silence in these moments can be the most profound response of all. Think about it. What does it say about your inner strength when you refuse to chase after someone who's chosen to disappear? It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you're unaffected. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions or their lack of explanation. By choosing silence, you're not giving them power over your emotions. Instead, you're reclaiming your own. Picture this: someone ghosts you, and instead of sending that 5th text or calling for the 10th time, you simply step back. You don't block them out of anger or spite, but you also don't chase them for closure. You let their silence speak for itself, and in doing so, you honor your own dignity. Walking away without seeking closure isn't easy. It takes immense strength and discipline, but it's also one of the most empowering things you can do. Stoicism reminds us that our reactions define us far more than the actions of others. When you choose silence and restraint, you're not just avoiding an impulsive reaction, you're demonstrating that you're in control of your own narrative. And that, in itself, is a quiet but powerful form of self-respect. Now, let's shift our focus to solitude, a concept that might feel uncomfortable at first, especially after being ghosted. But in Stoicism, solitude isn't something to fear or avoid. It's actually seen as a rare gift, a chance to step back and reconnect with yourself. Think about it. When someone ghosts you, they're essentially creating space in your life. And while that space might feel empty at first, it's also an opportunity to fill it with something meaningful, your own growth. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Solitude is the school of genius." What he meant was that being alone allows us to think deeply, to reflect, and to truly understand who we are without the noise of the outside world. When you're ghosted, you're suddenly handed this gift of time to ask yourself important questions, time to recalibrate, and time to grow stronger in your own sense of self. So, how can you use this time alone to deepen your understanding of yourself? Start by embracing the quiet. Instead of rushing to fill the silence with distractions, sit with it. Ask yourself, what do I truly value? What kind of person do I want to become? This isn't about dwelling on the person who ghosted you. It's about turning inward and focusing on your own journey. Solitude becomes a mirror, reflecting back the parts of yourself that you might have overlooked or neglected. And here's the thing, this isn't just about surviving being ghosted. It's about thriving. When you use solitude as a tool for self-reflection, you're not just waiting for someone else to come back into your life. You're actively building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. You're learning to stand on your own, to find peace within yourself, and to recognize that your worth isn't tied to someone else's presence or absence. That's the power of solitude. It turns what feels like a loss into a profound opportunity for growth. Ghosting can feel like a sudden stop, a jarring interruption in the rhythm of your life. But here's where Stoicism offers a powerful reframe. Setbacks, even painful ones, can become fuel for purposeful action. Instead of letting the silence of someone's absence define your next steps, you can choose to channel that energy into something meaningful. As Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." In other words, the hardest part is often taking that first step forward, but once you do, the path becomes clearer. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to spiral into overthinking or self-doubt. But Stoicism reminds us that we can't control how others act, only how we respond. Instead of dwelling on what you can't change, focus on what you can, your own goals, your passions, and the kind of life you want to build. Ghosting, in a strange way, can be a catalyst for growth. It forces you to ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What do I want to pour my energy into? Here's a practical step to get started. Take a moment to create a simple plan. Write down 1 or 2 things that light you up, whether it's a hobby, a project, or a personal goal. Then break it down into small, actionable steps. Maybe it's signing up for a class, dedicating an hour a day to a creative pursuit, or reaching out to someone who inspires you. The key is to focus on progress, not perfection. By investing your energy into something meaningful, you reclaim your power and shift the narrative from loss to growth. Remember, Stoicism isn't about ignoring pain, it's about using it as a stepping stone. When you choose to move forward with purpose, you're not just overcoming ghosting, you're building a life that's richer, more intentional, and entirely your own. So, as we wrap this up, let's revisit the core Stoic principles that can help you navigate the sting of ghosting without losing your power. First, detachment, not in the sense of apathy, but in recognizing that you can't control how others behave, only how you respond. Then, resilience, that quiet strength that lets you bounce back, even when it feels like the ground has been pulled out from under you. Next, self-mastery, the practice of steering your emotions rather than letting them steer you. And finally, acceptance, the ability to face reality as it is, not as you wish it were. These principles don't just apply to ghosting, they're tools for life. They remind us that no one can take away our power unless we hand it over. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. That strength is what allows you to rise above the silence, the unanswered messages, and the uncertainty. It's what keeps you grounded, even when someone else's actions feel like a rejection of your worth. So here's the question to carry with you. How will you choose to respond to challenges in a way that honors your power? Will you let them define you, or will you use them as an opportunity to practice the Stoic virtues we've discussed today? If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. There's more to come on living with resilience and purpose. And if you've got thoughts or experiences to share, drop them in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going.